Hi, Isabella. How are you?
Brazil. We are very happy to have you again with us. Welcome to this conference. And we are here very anxious and willing to hear and learn with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me as well. And hello, everybody. I'm going to be talking about innovating in employee upskilling. I just need to take away this video because it's right in my face. There you go. And we're going to talk about innovating in employee upskilling, and something that I've been thinking a lot about and doing a lot about. I'm a professor of practice at Oh, I don't know why it's sharing that screen. It shouldn't be sharing that screen. Let me see where we're going wrong there. Something is happening with the screen sharing. But perhaps we can fix that. Let me try again. I don't know what's happening. Apologies. So I don't know if the team can stop sharing that screen. I don't know why they're sharing that screen. We should be sharing a different screen. Let me try again. Share. Okay. Is it working now?
So we are
I
not
think you should be able
seeing.
to see the cover slide. You should be able to see the cover slide that says innovating in employee upskilling.
We. Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Great. I don't know what happened there, but apologies for that. So I'm a professor of practice at Holt International Business School, and I'm also global learning leader at Ernst& Young, where I've been for 40 years, actually, in total. So I'm going to talk about innovating in employee upskilling. And to start that discussion, I want to take a step back and look at the overall environment that we're in. And the environment that we're in is one that is increasingly uncertain. So if you look here, you can see that this is the Federal Reserve. They track how many times the word uncertain appears around the world. This is the latest data tracking back to 1990. And you can see that we are living in an increasingly uncertain time. We even had a spike clearly during COVID, but even after that, we're still going up. And why is this? Well, there's all of these things happening. You can see that we've got geopolitical uncertainty, economic uncertainty, globalization happening, people undoing globalization as well, sustainability, demographics, tech disruption. Our consumers are changing, and who knows how many more pandemics we're going to get. So, on top of the day job, leaders have to also cope with everything that's going on for them as well. Have to cope with all of these things in addition to their day jobs. And one of those things I talked about was demographics. And what we've seen in demographics is that global fertility rates are down. In 1970, every woman around the world was having roughly 5 kids. Now it's about half of that much. It's 2.31 children per woman. And around the world, when you say, well, okay, which countries have fertility or birth rates above 2.1, the replacement rate. And you see that actually there are very, very few countries around the world like that. And in sort of Central South America, Mexico is the only one really that's at 2.1. Everybody else around the world, all the other big countries in the world, are on the right hand side. And you can see there Brazil is around the same as China and the US at 1.7. So on average, we're having 1.7 kids per couple in Brazil, which means we're not replacing the two people who are having those kids or, kids that don't grow to adulthood. We're not at 2.1. And what that means is that everything else being equal, we're looking at Brazil's population going down over time. Now, people obviously live longer and you probably have some immigration that might add to your overall population. But having lots of elderly people doesn't really help the economy. It just means you have to have more people paying for pensions. And so Brazil isn't alone. You can see all these other countries are facing this issue. South Korea, in particular, 0.8. That means within one generation, South Korea will halve the total population within one generation. And the average number of the average age in these countries, you can see, varies tremendously. So in Japan, the average person is almost 50, whereas in Nigeria, they're 18. So if you're a 17-year-old, a 19-year-old in Nigeria, you're pretty old. And if you're a 48-year-old in Japan, you're pretty young. And when I talk to executives about this, they're often surprised that there are such great differences. And often European companies that I deal a lot with think, well, we're in Germany, we can easily sell to Nigeria. Whereas they can't really, because we're talking about not only a different culture, but a different generation that you're selling to as well. So increasingly, I think business people need to pay attention to what's happening with these fertility rates, because there are very few countries on the left-hand side here which are naturally increasing their population, and there are many more countries on the right-hand side which are decreasing their population. And that means that's true for Brazil as well. This is 2023. This is where we are in terms of men and women in Brazil across the ages. And you can see as it goes to 2030, it becomes less like a pyramid. 2040, even less so. And 2050, it's almost an upside down pyramid. You almost have more people who are really old compared to people who are really young. In fact, this is the data. Brazilians over 65, 31%. Brazilians under 20, only 20%. That is that rapidly aging population. And we have to do something about this, because if everything else was equal, there is no way that everybody could pay for this rapidly aging workforce, and we won't have enough workers. We'll talk about what we can do. But actually, the whole world is suffering from skill shortages. This is the USA. The latest data shows that there are 0.6 people available for every job vacancy that's out there. And that's been true. That's been going down for a long time. You can see over the last 15 years, that's pretty much been going down, apart from COVID. And it's true across the world. So in London, where I am, that's true. In Germany, it's true. Spain is issuing a rallying call for workers from Latin America who can speak Spanish. And even the Chinese government are saying they're going to be short of 30 million manufacturing workers. So we are in this era of skills shortages. And as I say, Brazil is going through this as well. The second thing that I'd like to point out is that actually people want a lot more flexibility. Our employees are getting much more demanding. And here in the survey that EY did, 54% of employees said they're going to quit if you don't give them the flexibility they want. So you say, okay, well, tell us what the flexibility you want is. What do you want? And they say, well, I want to be flexible in where I work, what work I do, when I work, who I work with, why I work, and how I work. Give me all that, and I'll stay. And that's really difficult. It's really difficult for most businesses to give people this amount of flexibility. But that is what increasingly we're seeing employees demanding all across the world. And so the more that you as an employer can offer this to your people, the more engaged your people will be. By the way, we'll make sure you get a PDF of these slides afterwards. So it's no wonder then that we're all thinking, well, where do we get this talent from? What are the new sources of talent? And I think what we have to do is, rather than recruiting for a particular job, what we need to do is to take a job and split it into its various tasks, and then say, oh, actually, some of these tasks have to be done in the office. They have to be done in Sao Paulo. These others could be done remotely by anybody, anywhere. And these others could be automated. And we have to unbundle jobs into these ways. And if we do that right, then it opens up a whole world of additional sources of talent, if you like. Automation is a source of talent because you don't need people if you automate what they do. Offshoring, using older workers, having parents return to work, part-timers, disabled workers, carers, gig workers. So a whole range of new talent is now available to us, particularly for helping us work remotely, do the work that needs to be done remotely. So that's some background on demographics. Let's talk about technology, because technology is changing everything. Here's some automated warehouses in the UK. There are no people. It's just robots picking up grocery orders. This is cashierless stores. This is Amazon Go. I was visiting, and I just used my phone to get in, and I went in, had a look around, and started stealing some sweets. There you go, putting some sweets into my jacket and wandering straight out. My friend was really, really worried. And a few seconds later, we got the bill. No cashiers at all. Biotech means that finally we're now able to create new types of species to do exactly what we want and new advances in medicine, which means that within the next 10 years, we're likely to find a vaccine cure for cancer within the next 10 years. So just incredible advances in biotech that will mean we can live a lot longer. And I guess the question is, what would you do with an extra 30 years of healthy life if you had that? So that's something to look out for. Autonomous vehicles, which means that we don't have to depend on truck drivers, which are really difficult to find now. How can we find them? Well, one way is we can automate trucks. These are already on the streets. We can do 3D printing instead of manufacturing. We can do this boat in a weekend instead of 6 months. And finally, the energy transition, which means that a lot of countries who are very short of energy will have access to things like wind power and solar power and have less dependence on foreign oil. So a lot of those technologies mean that a lot of these kinds of jobs here, and these are the top jobs in the US, these represent 25% of all US jobs. Technology means that a lot of these kind of jobs, like retail salesperson, like drivers, fast food workers, cashiers, all of these jobs are likely to change. We're likely to need a lot fewer people doing customer service reps. And so, we've been talking about this a while, that people at this end, relatively less educated people rather than professional people, are more likely to lose jobs. And that's kind of been true until now. Things are beginning to change because what we're now looking at is things like generative AI, where you can give it a piece of art like this girl with a pearl earring and say, what would the rest of the painting have looked like if Vermeer had painted that? And here you go. It's generated the rest of the painting for you. Or it could be a voice, and I plugged in my voice into a system and asked it to say these words in my voice. This is not my voice. I did not speak this sentence. This is a copy of my voice. Maybe this is not a good thing. And you might think that's kind of cute, but some people in Hong Kong decided to clone a company director's voice and then went off with $35 million in that bank heist by cloning that voice using exactly this system. So there are some dangers to this. And then finally, ChatGPT. I mean, earlier on I said to ChatGPT, can you write 100-word rap? It has to be exactly 100 words about a presentation called Innovating and Employee Upskilling for the Control to Culture conference today in the style of Eminem. And here you go. It started writing all of this. I'm not going to sing it. And quite incredible. And then I said, well, could you write that in Brazilian Portuguese? And there you go. Not that I can read any of it, but hopefully that makes some sense in Portuguese as well. So that's kind of cute. Yeah, that we can all access this on our phones and get poetry and so on done. But actually, this means that this generative AI means that we're looking at a large number of professional jobs which are in danger as well. For a long time, the last 6-7 years, I've been telling people, do not think that your kid is going to go and become a computer programmer. That world is going to get automated really fast. And now we're there. So you can ask ChatGPT to write an entire code for you for, let's say, a game. Content creators, legal assistants, junior accountants, financial analysts, customer service, teachers, journalists, designers, researchers. These are just 10 of the jobs that I think this technology will replace a lot of. It won't replace the entire job, but it will replace quite a lot of the tasks that we talked about when you split a job into various tasks. And so the question comes, what does all of this mean for jobs? Does it mean that we go from these kind of jobs and to this, where technology takes over everything? And when you read the press, you get people saying, oh, even fashion jobs are vulnerable to AI. And others saying, well, people shouldn't worry that AI should take their jobs. So which is it? And I've been thinking about this for a while, and this is what I think. Will technology destroy or downscale jobs? The answer is yes, absolutely. I've just shown you some. But at the same time, will technology create jobs or upscale jobs? Who had heard of mindfulness trainers 10 years ago? You know, there will be new things that we'll come up with. The questions are, will the new jobs we create be enough to offset the jobs that are lost? Will we have enough time to retrain those truck drivers into, I don't know, creative coders and then change them again when coding gets fully automated? And what's the impact in the long run? And the answer to these three questions is nobody knows. We really don't know what the impact of all this will be. What we do know, that even if we don't face mass unemployment, we will face mass redeployment. And so we have to address this. And as we know, we're having fewer kids. So this means reskilling becomes crucial. If we have fewer people in the population and we have more and more jobs automated, we're going to have to reskill the people that are available into the jobs that are available. Because we have falling birth rates, because we're suffering skill shortages, because tech is changing the nature of work, reskilling is absolutely crucial. And it's a challenge that can't be met by corporates alone. It has to have help from governments and NGOs. And I talked to a few of the governments that I'm familiar with. I don't see them doing much in this area. Probably the governments that are doing the most are places like Singapore, where the government is really focused on reskilling its own population. So what's the role for corporates? What can corporates do? Well, let me tell you what we've done at EY. And if you don't know EY, we've got 400,000 people in pretty much every country in the world, and we offer assurance, tax, strategy, and consulting advice. And the question I had was, how can we prepare our 400,000 people for the future of work? And so we designed this idea of micro-credentials, EY badges, and we did it as a global program. And we thought we'd cover not only tech skills, but also mindset skills, leadership mindset, because we think skill set and mindset have to come together to create success in the future. And we designed 5 levels of badges. So in every topic, every domain, there is these 5 levels of badges. And uniquely, these badges you get because you do some learning and then you apply that learning. And then you get a badge. Learning and applications equals a badge. And we did this and we thought, we think this could help us retain people better, brand ourselves better, and find highly skilled people quicker. And that's exactly what's happened. So these are all the badges we created. They're in the areas of technology, leadership, and business. And the leadership badges are in our leadership framework that we use globally at EY. And we did this 3 years ago, and where we are now is over 370,000 badges have been earned, and another 310,000 are in progress. The minimum time to get a badge is 15 hours of learning. And then for a bronze badge, you need to do another 30 hours of application. So this is a large number of hours, typically 45 hours for a badge, that these 370,000 people have done. And they've done it in their own time, and they've done it by themselves without too much pushing from us. They've done it because they want to learn. And so I thought this was really incredible. If we provided the right kind of learning easily on their phones to these people, virtual learning available anytime, that they would want to do it. And then we found that there were big impact. So we did a survey of 50,000 people and found that the people who had badges were 11% more likely to be high performers, up to 20 percentage points more used on clients, utilized, and 2 percentage points more likely to stay at EY. So this has been a tremendous success for us. And then we thought, well, what else could we do with this? And what we did is we invented the EY Tech MBA with our partners at Hult International Business School. And so the EY Tech MBA is an online master's degree designed by EY, designed by us, but awarded by Hult, which, as you know, is triple accredited university. a completely world-class tech MBA free for all EY people. And it's unique because it is future-focused. We set the agenda, Holt review the curriculum, and it's based on those badges. You have to get so many badges, then you do some professor learning, and then you do a final capstone project. Very future focused, flexible because people can take as long as they want over doing it, and it's available. Nearly all of the program is virtual, and it's completely free of charge. And we already have, by June, we will have 250 graduates of the EY Tech MBA by Holt. So we're really, really pleased with this. And I've been talking to a number of universities about how they need to change to meet the needs of employees and employers today. In fact, we didn't stop at the MBA. So together with Holt, we created two other universities, two other degrees, the Masters in Business Analytics and the Masters in Sustainability. And again, because we love to measure things at EY, you can see 7 percentage points more likely to stay if you've done the MBA, twice the value of your sales pipeline, and 6 times more likely to be promoted. These are the kinds of impacts that people say, wow, I really ought to do this. This is going to help my career. So that's what EY did. I just want to pull back again and talk more generally because, with all this upheaval in jobs, I think some of this is the good thing, because no child dreams of doing dull work. No child says, when I grow up, I really want to work in some sort of rabbit hutch with lots of other people and answer calls from angry Americans about their phone bill. Nobody does that. And it's really sad that only 15% of employees around the world, only 15% are actively engaged at work. The other 85% are not engaged. That's terrible. It's terrible because we spend 82,000 hours at work. And this is a terrible loss of human happiness. It's a terrible loss of, human creativity and innovation that we're losing here by having people do these incredibly dull jobs. So the more we can move our people away from this, the more we can reskill them, and the more we can automate this kind of work, I think the better for everybody. I think this new era demands bolder ideas. 100 years ago, teenagers were workers. And we invented teenagers, by inventing high schools. And 80 years ago, people used to work 6 or 7 days a week. And we invented the weekend and gave people 2 days a week off. So the question is, how bold are we willing to be? These things didn't exist. Teenagers didn't exist before 100 years ago, and the weekend didn't exist 80 years ago. We created these as a response, and I think we need to create new things as a response to the new world we're in now. And one of those ideas is a 4-day work week, to say, well, do we really need to work 5 days a week? All the studies that have been done have shown that they've got all these benefits from a 4-day work week. What you do is you make people work 4 days instead of 5, but you pay them for 5 days and they produce 5 days worth of output. It's called 80% of the time, 100% of the productivity, 100% of the pay. And you might think that's a bit crazy until you see the results of the biggest trial of the 4-day work week was done here in the UK, 61 companies. And what we found was 92% of the companies are continuing the 4-day work week. Huge reduction in staff leaving, huge improvement in health improvements. And 15% of employees said no amount of money would make them accept a 5-day job again. So quite stunning results from this. And I really think it's worthwhile you and your companies thinking of trialing this in small pockets. That's what we're doing at EY. The other thing is that we've thought of our lives in 3 stages. We've thought of our lives as the first 20-odd years learning, the next 40-odd years working, and the last 10 years going off into the sunset, playing some golf, and then dying. And that was maybe okay for 40 years ago. It's not okay now when we're living 100 years and maybe more. Can you possibly learn everything you need to learn in the first 20-odd years to keep you going for another 80? Can you possibly earn enough money in the middle 40 odd years to keep you alive for another 40 odd years? And can governments really afford to keep people in pensions for 40 odd years after they stop working? The answer to all that is no, really. We have to think differently. And here's one way of thinking differently is you turn this on its side and you say, well, throughout my 100 years, I'm going to spend time learning throughout my life. Every now and again, I'm going to come back to full-time learning. I'm going to be working throughout my life. There's no reason why I have to stop working at 60 or 70 if I'm healthy and capable. And I'm going to take time for play throughout my life. Why would I work like a dog just with little 2-week, 3-week holidays here and there and until I'm 60 or 70 and then retire and spend all my life doing nothing but being on vacation? That doesn't make sense. Wouldn't it be better if we could take off 2 years while we were 40 and take ourselves and our kids, our families, and tour the world? How could we as employers empower our people to live this portfolio life? And I think the employers that figure this out will have a massive competitive advantage over ones who still stay traditional. My experience with offering this kind of thing is that you offer it, people get very, very excited, and they're very motivated to come and work with you. The reality is few people actually take up these options. What people want is autonomy. They want the ability to choose these things. They don't necessarily have to do them. They want the ability to choose them. And so if you did this, I think you'd find that there'd be fewer people doing all of this portfolio life than you perhaps at first imagined. But it's really important, I think, is to offer much more flexibility to our people. Just concluding, I think the future is uncertain. In fact, the future is even more uncertain now than it was before. And human beings don't like uncertainty. And especially as leaders, we like to have the answers. And it's clear you don't have the answers. We don't know what's going to be happening with all of this stuff. But here's the thing. You don't actually need to have the answers. What you need is to ask the right questions. And so everything that we've been trying to do in our firm is trying to say to people, let's focus on questions rather than answers. And sort of making statements, ask more questions, be more curious, because we think curiosity is at the heart of this. Having our people be more curious will help them being open to learn and open to reskill. I think we in HR have never had a time where our role has been more important. I think the world really needs our help now, and HR has never been more crucial, and we have this incredible opportunity to shape the future. We in HR can make the difference for everybody around the world. There is 2 pictograms for crisis in Chinese. One means danger, and the other one means opportunity. And we can choose to see all of this stuff happening as full of danger. We can hide away from it, run away from it, ignore it. But it's there. We can choose to spend all our time worrying about it. But actually, the alternative is to switch it around and choose to see this as an opportunity. This is an opportunity to help our employees do much more exciting work, do work in a new area, get used to constant reskilling and upskilling. And this is an opportunity for us to have much happier lives for our communities, for our families, and for ourselves. And I really hope you're choosing to see all of this change as being full of opportunity. Thank you very much. It's been lovely chatting to you.
Amazing, Riaz. Thank you for sharing all of this. We have many questions coming from the audience, so I would start with this one. Based on your experience teaching at Halt EF for many leaders from different countries, cultures, and industries, what, from your point of view, are the main skills and the crucial one to embrace change?
Yeah, I'd say there are three things. The first one is curiosity, as I just talked about. And when we're kids, we're super curious. You know, between the ages of 2 and 4, we ask something like 40,000 questions. But then we go to school and our teachers tell us not to ask these stupid questions. And we go to work, and the last thing we want to do is ask a stupid question. So we don't. And I actually think that it's those very basic, stupid questions that are at the heart of innovation. And so we have to create a culture. Leaders have to create a culture where people can feel free to ask stupid questions. So the first one is curiosity, asking more questions. The second one is purpose, I think. I think it's really important for everybody to be clear about their personal purpose. Of course, it's clear for corporates must have a purpose these days to attract people who are much more interested in that than before. But leaders need to have a personal purpose that they can figure out what is true north for them. What are the opportunities that they could grab themselves and for their teams that will meet their purpose? And the final one is to be bold. I come across a lot of leaders who spend a lot of time researching this, and when I talk about the changes in technology, they're aware of them, but they don't take the first step. So they do a lot of research, but they don't actually do anything about it. And to them, I always say, just do some small experiments. Just try something. Just try a pilot. For us, EY Badges was a pilot, and the EY Tech MBA by Halt was a crazy idea. And both of them ended up being massive successes for us. So just try some pilots. So I would say it's curiosity, purpose, and being bold.
I have two kids, so I totally agree when you say about the many questions I receive
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing. So curiosity, be bold, and have a purpose. We have another one coming from Louisa Hood. So she is asking if do you see yourself as a pessimistic or an optimistic person when facing that chaotic scenario?
Yeah. I think it's really easy for us to be pessimistic. The more I read about technology changes and climate changes and demographic changes and political changes around the world, the more pessimistic I could easily be. But what's kept me going throughout my career is always wanting to be optimistic. And the reason why I do end my many presentations with that Chinese pictograms, because I really do think it's a choice we have. We can choose to see anything going wrong as being full of danger, or we can choose to see it as an opportunity. And throughout my life, my mother taught me well to see everything as an opportunity. So I'm an optimist.
Great to hear. As you know, as a Brazilian, I would say all of us are more optimistic than pessimistic.
Yes.
And we have one more. So this one is a very good one coming from Leticia Soares. And she would like to know how you confirm the application of the contents to deliver the beds.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Yes,
I didn't.
it's like how do you confirm the application of the contents to deliver the beds? So how do you make sure people are
Mm.
getting the knowledge in order to give them the badge?
Yeah. Well, we have very easy ways of knowing that they're doing the learning because our learning management system tracks any learning that they're doing. A lot of the learning we chose not to develop ourselves. It doesn't make sense to develop your own AI learning because AI is changing so quickly. So what we do is we use the MOOCs, the learning platforms like Udemy. And so we have Udemy for AI 101, AI 201, and then as it gets more and more advanced and more specific to EY, we have EY learning. How do we know that people are doing the learning? Our LMS tracks both Udemy learning, external learning, as well as internal learning. How do we know that people are actually doing the experiences they said they did? We actually have a form that they have to get their manager to complete, who saw them do that experience, and that the manager signs to say that this person really did do this experience.
Great. And then the last one, he has maybe more personal one, but how was
Mm.
it for you to embrace the change of bringing this new concept to UI, of having the badge and the UI Tech MBA? So how do you convince leadership and the many partners you have, not only in
Mm.
the UK, but globally as well?
Yeah, we have 14,000 partners. And when I first pitched the badges to some of our leaders, they said, why? These badges aren't worth anything. They're stupid virtual badges. Why would anybody do this? And I explained that what we were trying to do is to turn learning into a game, and that people loved badges, and that's what they did in video games and so on. And I guess I was lucky that in that I've been with EY a long time and people trusted me, and they let us start a little experiment. And that little experiment was very successful. We had about 3,000 badges in the first 6 months. That was enough to allow us to move to the next stage where we got 50,000, and then we've kept going, and now we're at 370,000 today. Yeah, same with the Tech MBA. I remember one of our very senior partners saying to me, why on earth do you want to do the job that universities do? And the answer to that is I don't think universities are doing the job that they're supposed to. I don't think they are preparing people for the current world. Our badges are updated every 4 months. That's how we know that they're relevant. And so our MBA is effectively updated every 4 months. So we had a lot of resistance from some senior people. The way around it is to do it as a pilot where you're not investing a lot of money. You're just doing it for a small limited population, and you can prove some results after a short time. So that's why I think experimentation is the way to go. Even if you have very little political power in your organization, by doing experiments, you can, and coming up with some proof points, you can get things done.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and being here with us today.
Thank you as
It
well.
was really a pleasure.
Thank you. And I'll share my PDF. And if anybody wants to continue the conversation, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Thanks very much, Isabella.
Thank you.